These historic numbers are just the new normal for local Border Patrol agents.
Running into the Yuma sector just around 2 a.m.
This whole line of migrants currently being apprehended by Border Patrol, and in a short time they'll be loaded right onto this bus.
But their journeys are not yet finished. Donde va? But soon the wall could look like this.
Pieces of the roof falling down and the sun coming through the ceiling.
Eric and Santos were dropped off by Border Patrol at the port of entry due to Title 42.
By piles of unused border fence. It has been sitting here since President Biden's first day in office.
He's tired of waiting, using state money to buy shipping containers like these to build Arizona's own version of the border wall.
And over 100 of them were placed in Yuma in August. Now in the new year, they're being removed. The crowds which gather here at the Yuma border wall only seem to be getting bigger. These migrants here all waiting to be apprehended still, while these migrants are being processed by Border Patrol and are about to be loaded onto buses. Migrants coming to Yuma are from all over the world, one even telling me this is his first time in the United States.
Late night and early morning crossings into the Yuma sector continue nonstop. In the first full week of September, Yuma's chief patrol officer said over 6,000 migrants were apprehended, coming from 40 different countries. Ivan Romero crossed into the United States this morning, his first time ever in the country. I came here for an opportunity to work. Romero's journey is not over. He plans to go to Miami and live with his cousin, but he hopes getting to Florida will be safer than getting to the U.S. border. The journey was a little dangerous, like it is for any migrant. However, some migrants, like the Torres brothers, said getting to the border was easy. They say they flew on a plane to Mexicali, then Ubered to Los Algodones, and walked into the United States with dreams for their future. I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 20. There's a lot of corruption where we are from. We want to set up a better future for our next generations, thank God. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey continues busing migrants to Washington, D.C. Texas Governor Greg Abbott also is busing migrants to D.C., as well as New York and Chicago. Chicago's governor signed a disaster declaration and mobilized the state National Guard to handle the over 500 migrants which have arrived in the city over 2 weeks. Just half the amount that walks into Yuma every day. Reporting in Yuma, Adam Klepp, News 11.
Each one of these containers being lifted off the ground by those cranes weighs 8,800 pounds, and over 100 of them were placed in Yuma in August. Now in the new year, they're being removed.
Yuma's controversial containers, placed on federal land by the state government, are getting taken down. According to contracts with Ash Britt, the container project in Yuma will cost taxpayers over $10 million. Adding the construction in Cochise County, the total cost is expected to be well over $150 million. Local farmer and Republican state representative Tim Dunn says it's money well spent.
These containers have been critical in stopping illegal border crossers from coming into the fields.
But since the containers have been placed in Yuma, migrant apprehensions by Border Patrol have only risen, with over 50,000 illegal crossings in the last 2 months of Customs and Border Protection data. Bernie Quiroz with the Arizona California Humanitarian Coalition says the containers were simply a political stunt.
They served no purpose. They were meaningless.
Migrants continue to walk into Yuma through the local reservation where there is only a vehicle barrier and gather by the border wall meant to keep them out.
The American dream is alive and vibrant, whether we choose to like it or not.
Alive and vibrant for migrants just like Barbaro Hernandez. In Cuba, there's injustice. I can't go back. Container wall deconstruction in Yuma is expected to take at least 1 week. Reporting from the border, Adam Klepp, News 11. Mexicali continues to be a temporary home for tens of thousands of migrants before completing their journey to America. In the winter, the local government raced to open shelters. Now in March, many of the migrants have either found jobs and their own housing or crossed into the United States, so now only 2 government shelters remain. This is one of those shelters reserved specifically for women or families. Rosa is one of the migrants living here. She's also 3 months pregnant. She says if this shelter closes, she doesn't know where she would go to get medical care.
Because of the doctor, I'm very worried, because if I have to leave the shelter, I don't know where I'm going to go to the hospital.
The conditions at this government-sponsored shelter aren't as bad compared to the other shelter I visited. Hijo Prodigo does not receive support from the government, and it shows.
Conditions inside the shelter extremely rough. You can see pieces of the roof falling down and the sun coming through the ceiling in these tents. More than 100 migrants sleep every single night, and to my left is the bathrooms where there are just 2 toilets to share between all of them. The director of this shelter tells me migrants pay 50 cents a night to sleep here and stay for maybe 2 or 3 days before finally attempting to cross into the United States.
Evidence on the floor in the shelter suggests pigeons also have made Hijo Prodigo a temporary home. The birds even occasionally are caught and cooked by the migrants who stay here. The shelter director says there are no lights in the shelter and it gets extremely hot in the summer months.
Truthfully, we have many problems. We have no electricity.
A dentist in Holtville and members of a Brawley church were at Hijo Prodigo to provide medical services to migrants. Gail Cheatwood says he and many others pulled teeth, gave out eyeglasses, and provided medications.
Yesterday there was a lady that had, her blood pressure was 300 over 160, so they just immediately took her to the hospital.
The shelter has been running for 3 years, and while the conditions inside border on unlivable, it provides an essential service for migrants who would be on the streets otherwise. The shelter director says he does not know how much longer the shelter can continue to operate if there isn't government support.
We have had some instances where there are only 5 or 10 immigrants here, but they don't close it. It'll remain open as long as there are immigrants.
And with the United States on pace to have over 2 million apprehensions at the border this year, the constant flow of migrants through Mexicali doesn't look as if it will slow down anytime soon. Reporting in Mexicali, Adam Klepp, News 11.